Hello everyone and welcome to the Planning Game Podcast, your weekly podcast for real world planning solutions to real world planning problems. My name's John McDermott from Town Planning Expert. Let's get right into it. Okay guys, so another one of the Bali sessions, and I'm joined this evening, because it's evening for us now, by Mike and Carey McKeown of Matrix Group, the Neo and Trinity of serviced accommodation. Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. Welcome guys. So for those of the Planning Game audience that don't know Matrix, or The Matrix, let's not go to The Matrix. Apparently they're bringing out a fourth film and it's going to be rubbish.
I haven't seen the first one.
Well, that's good. You named your property development after it. Right, so tell us about what you are, what you do, all that kind of wonderful gubbins.
Okay, so we're Mike and Carey. We're a husband and wife team based in Hereford. So we've got a couple of sort of property interests. We've got usual sort of few buy-to-lets. We've got a serviced accommodation business as well. That's guest-facing brand of that is rentmyhouse.co.uk, and we've also got an SA consultancy company as well, and that all forms part of our Matrix Group. And with the consultancy side of things, we sort of specialise in the serviced accommodation management model. We help start-up businesses, we help existing businesses as well. And yeah, so there's lots of diversity, isn't there? It's very sort of interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
Keeps us on our toes.
It's nice meeting new people all the time, helping them along the way. As Mike said, they're all at different stages, so we identify before they arrive what stage they're at. Do they need help finding properties? Do they already have properties? And so they need help with the managing side of things. So yeah, we cover every aspect really of
Cool.
SA.
Amazing. And so talk to us about the consultancy side of things, because in reality that's really quite interesting, isn't it? Because when I'm talking to people on the Planning Game, I say, right, pick your expert. You know, no one goes into the game blind. No football team doesn't have a football manager. Well, you're from Hereford, so no rugby team doesn't have a rugby coach to get them down the pathway. So in terms of SA consultancy, how does that work? How does that operate? How do you help people in their journey towards lucrative serviced accommodation business?
Well, we help them from start to finish. Like I say, we identify their area, so they'll either come to us with properties already, or we help them source them, whichever route they want to go down. Then once they've got them, we help them look at the competition in the area to identify who their competitors are really, and to get an idea on a price per night for the property that they have or thinking of getting. And then we go through the whole journey from start to finish. So we'll go through the listings and all the different portals they can go on. We will show them how to add the listings to those portals. We'll help them with the channel manager side of things. So every SA company really needs a decent channel manager to coordinate all their bookings. And see it through then, we'll help them automate their SA business. So there's very little that they need to do on a daily basis. And right through, if they're going to then manage properties eventually for other people, we can see it right through to the point where they have to pay their owners for the properties that they've managed for the bookings that they've had the month before.
Cool.
We've just tried to design our consultancy around what we thought was a real sort of gap in the market, and we're sort of a real need for that level of support. Rather than sort of trying to overfill a room with multiple delegates and deliver some general training, we've tried to make it very specific to those individuals and their needs. So it's very much sort of one-to-one. So our clients don't have to share the room with anybody else, and it is bespoke to them and their needs. So there's a sort of an initial process. We understand sort of at what stage they're at, what they'd like to cover, and then we also slot in then the bits and pieces that we know they need to cover and sort of account for depending on sort of the stage they're at with their business.
We also help with building teams. So every SA operator needs to have a cleaning team, a maintenance team, and that's really, really important. In fact, it's one of the most difficult things to do for your SA business is find decent, reliable cleaners.
It's critical, isn't it?
That will look after you and the properties and ultimately your guests, as you really do live and die by the reviews that you get from the likes of booking.com and Airbnb. We've got our own agency and have recently been awarded superhost status on Airbnb, which is generally very difficult to obtain. But when you've got as many units as we have, it's even harder because it's generally there's lots of different areas that you have to cover, but the biggest thing is your review score. So the more units you have, the harder it is to maintain that level of reviews, and obviously you've just got to keep and maintain that really high level, and that's in turn will generate your bookings.
I think it's important to note that we're not sort of solely a training provider. All of our clients come into an existing established business and they see where we are, real time, and that's quite important because all of the things that we cover are exactly what we do that have led to these sort of successes, as Carey said there, with the superhost status and the average sort of booking.com rating in the 8s and 9s over a sustained period of time. It's not a sort of flash in the pan, it's just consistent high levels of service being offered to our guests, and this is why I think our occupancy rates are so high, because we have lots and lots of returning guests, lots and lots of direct bookings, and this is what we cover with our clients. So we give them all of the sort of tools and the foundation to sort of put in place to eventually be able to sort of outstrip the portals where you would pay commission for bookings, and actually these people will come and find you direct, which is better for yourself, better for the clients, and ultimately just a higher level of service that's then being able to be delivered.
We can also help with communication software, and also the use of VAs from across the world to do various different tasks within the business, so that you don't have to, and you can then concentrate on growing your business.
Amazing. So again, it's about setting up the game correctly, isn't it? So what you're doing is because when we talk on the planning game, we talk about this metaphorical chessboard, you versus the planning authority, or you versus the area, all of that kind of thing, in terms of setting up against your adversary, which would be another SA business in this case. You're effectively loading the chessboard in your client's favour. You're making that first set of moves in order to allow them to get to checkmate as quickly as possible, rather than allowing them to bumble through the first set of moves, which would allow their opponents then, in this case the competition, to put them in check. So actually having that consultancy support, absolutely vital. We also talked today about your development journey, which is exciting, and I know this is something Mike is expressly passionate about, and is going to be doing a lot more of as a result of your Bali session today. So it's been a bit of a learning journey for you, as well as a journey in business. So
Definitely.
Tell the guys about that.
Well, I think it was initially something that we felt we'd like to sort of tag on to our sort of existing businesses. So development seemed a sort of natural progression really, but I think initially it was something that I took very lightly, and I thought that it might just be a case of do a course, make some contacts, do a bit of networking, work with some investors, buy some land and build some houses. And I think my sort of initial naive approach meant that straight away I sort of hit the buffers, and it was clearly identified that I needed to put a lot more effort in and concentrate a lot more on trying to grow that side of the business, because it does take sort of full focus. There's a huge amount of pitfalls in every industry really, and every sort of sector that you work in, and none more so than in development. So to get off to the on the right footing and do things properly and identify things like viable sites, to then spend your time on bits and pieces like that, rather than not doing the initial due diligence and then wasting time on things that are never going to work. I've sort of had quite an awakening to that, and the last 18 months in respect to developments has been a huge learning curve for us, and with the help of TPX and the other guys that we work with, we're well on the right track now. We've got some really exciting sites in the pipeline now that will be incredible really. So it's all about just having that sort of support network around you and sort of educating yourself properly before sort of jumping in with both feet really.
I think the other thing you guys have done very well, to be absolutely fair, and on that focus point, is stay regimented to your area. Yeah. So you've drilled Hereford and Herefordshire because it's one council. There is one authority governing Hereford and Herefordshire. It's one unitary authority. So knowing your authority, and then knowing your market, knowing your build costs, because you've partnered with a couple of builders, and you've partnered with an architect. So knowing all that, having all that up front, really does focus the mind and give you half of the keys to the kingdom. Then you need to do is start drilling sites. And yes, we've had our highs and lows in terms of looking at sites. At one point, I turned it into a competition between you and Carey, which was hilarious. But equally so, we've had some highs, haven't we? And the site you brought to us this week, which I'm really looking forward to doing the Reserve Matters on, is an absolute corker. I mean, it's a great example of that focus, just drilling and drilling and drilling and drilling. And then the other thing that's revealed, hasn't it, is it's not just that site, but then once you expand your horizons a tiny bit, you start to see more.
Yeah, completely. And it's all about sort of initially surrounding yourself with the right sort of people, like-minded individuals, but also leaning on their experiences and their skill sets. And as you mentioned there, we've got now a company with an architect and some builders, and it's obviously you need to draw on those different sort of skill sets in order to sort of achieve the right result at the end. So it's understanding everybody's sort of strengths and weaknesses, and the sort of term that you use quite often is obviously putting your power team together, and it's exactly that, isn't it? So it's all about onwards and upwards really from this point.
Yeah, fantastic.
I think with Hereford, like you said, we've gone from finding absolutely nothing, because we said it's too green, too agricultural, and we're never going to find any sites, to really finding some really good ones.
Yeah, no, and you have, absolutely. And to paraphrase our learned colleague, who currently, for the people listening to the Planning Game, is about to do Insanity, which is a fitness regime, if you're not familiar with it, on the big screen here at the villa. Activity does create opportunity.
It does, definitely.
Activity really does, and really is key to success, because not only has that revealed one site to you, I mean, you've got your claws into quite a lot now, haven't you?
Yeah, and a lot of it has come about from sort of being involved with the service accommodation side of things. You meet obviously other property owners, existing clients that don't just have a buy-to-let portfolio. They might have commercial property or other sort of land interests, and and that's brought about some really exciting opportunities, which then mean you might come across things that aren't necessarily on the market.
Yeah.
You've already got that relationship in place, so you haven't sort of got to go through an agent. And think when you've got a situation like that, things like subject to planning offers can be a bit easier to achieve because you've got that relationship. It's not just coming through from an agent where the vendor might just be led then to perhaps wait for a different offer, which can be frustrating. So it's leveraging the network and the contacts that you've already got and continuing to sort of build on that really is something that I've learned a lot recently.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, having that power team really does push you forward. So let's talk a little bit about the future, because your future is really quite exciting now. We've got a 3-phase divide and conquer approach. So Owen is your Morpheus in this respect. So tell us about Owen, because Owen's a really inspiring little man, isn't he? I know all your kids are inspiring.
Yeah.
But Owen, 17-year-old. So, and for the guys at home, I want you to hear this, because for a 17-year-old to be doing what he's doing with such drive and passion, that's inspiring to me. So, yeah, tell us about Owen. Tell us about Morpheus. He's going to love, or not, the fact that I've just called him that.
Well, so Owen's our youngest son. He's got 2 siblings, an older brother and a younger sister. So obviously he's only 17, left school just over a year ago. And rather than go to college and do a course potentially that he wasn't necessarily that keen on, we talked about an opportunity for him to come and work in our service accommodation business as our business apprentice. So sort of a 2-year commitment from us and him to give him the opportunity to sort of earn while he learns, as it were. So he has sort of block release back to sort of college and whatnot. So he's supported by outside influence in respect to tutors and whatnot. And he came in on the basis that we would sort of see, how it went. And he sort of relished the opportunity. That was sort of just over a year or so ago. Yeah, nearly 18 months perhaps. And he's taken it all in his stride. Nothing seems to really sort of faze him. Once he got over his initial sort of hesitancy with sort of answering the phone, he was away, and that he became more and more confident in respect of that and speaking to outside people, guests, clients, taking general inquiries, because as he sort of became more and more exposed to the different bits and pieces that we do, obviously that helped his confidence. So he could sort of, have those conversations, which really are sort of a bit beyond his years at the moment, in comparison to his peers. So, sort of fast forward a few months later, Owen attended various different courses with you and I, didn't he? So he went on the White Box 3-day Property Developers Secrets with me, and then shortly after that,
he did the land and planning course with me.
Yeah, with you, wasn't it? And he's had sort of he's got a real passion for the site finder side of things and the whole development, and he's got a really good understanding of property now, and in such a short space of time, he's picked up on the buy to let model. He's got aspirations himself with respect to that. He really enjoys the site finding side of things, and he's got a real flair for it as well, and he's really gone from strength to strength really, and this week is testament really to the extent of his capabilities. Carey and I are over in Bali on our business retreat, and Owen's at home, and he's running the day-to-day operations for us. He's effectively running the business on his own, and we've got circa 30 properties, so he's been brilliant, really has, and I know we know him, obviously we live with him, we work with him, and I think sometimes we take for granted that just how capable he is, but obviously you guys have seen him and met him, haven't you? So.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, there are precious few 17-year-olds who can pick up the reins from mum and dad and then go, all right then,
yeah, exactly,
let's have it.
Yeah.
So this is part of this divide and conquer, which also frees up Ellis to go and do something quite amazing. We'll come on to that in a minute. So your three-phase approach that we've talked about in Bali is Owen's sort of diligence and duty is going to be rewarded.
Yes, exactly.
And don't worry, this will probably go out 2 weeks after Bali.
We get back,
This won't go out for a while. So this will go out 2 weeks after Bali. So you'll have plenty of time to break the news and then go, oh look, we talked about you. So his diligence and devotion to duty is going to be rewarded, isn't it?
It is, rightly so.
As part of the plan, you hand operational control from yourselves of Rent My House over to Owen to go and be Mr. Serviced Accommodation.
Yeah.
So Morpheus disappears off and goes and does his Morpheus thing and offers people's red pills or blue pills, not in a literal sense,
From the pub.
albeit having some red and blue jelly beans in the office might be quite cool.
Good idea.
Many other sweets are available. I have to do that BBC Two thing because we're not sponsored by anyone. And then Carey goes and does her Trinity thing by being a consultant and helping everyone, which is really what you want to do.
Yeah.
And Mike goes and gets to go and be Neo and fight bad guys in the development world. You actually get to go and fight agents. See if you can find yourself a Mr. Smith.
Yeah. God.
That is really, really quite cool. If guys are trying to contact you, find you, talk to you about serviced accommodation, because I know you're really well known in Gloucestershire, Worcestershire, Herefordshire and the borders. And I know you're going to be expanding those operations to cover more of the West Country. How do they get in touch with you? Where do they find you?
We've got a website, matrixconsultancygroup.co.uk, and that covers every company that we run. We've also got rentmyhouse.co.uk, but that's really guest facing for the serviced accommodation.
Cool.
Yeah, so the latter sort of displays our properties and our different sort of bits and pieces, and then, as Carey said, so Matrix Consultancy Group is our site, which sort of gives information on all the development side of things, the service accommodation management, and obviously the consultancy as well. So yeah, by all means.
They've got our contact details on there, haven't they?
And
And
of course, go to Mike for development,
Yeah.
Carey for consultancy, and if you want to talk to someone about actually renting their property, renting their property for them, that's definitely an Owen job.
Yes.
Yeah.
Before we go, we mentioned Ellis. Now this releases Ellis from his drudgery of effectively being a staff member to go and do something amazing. So you'll have talked to him by this point, I hope. Otherwise this is going to be an effing shot. So what's the vision for Ellis? Because Ellis is your oldest, and I said in the group, I have ultimate admiration for Mike, because it is an honour to be a father. It is an even greater honour, I think, and being a stepdad myself, I know, to have someone else's son turn around and call you dad. Yeah? So I have absolute admiration for him, and I'm going to have a beer with him later. But Ellis's future looks bright, so let's just talk quickly about that.
Well, he's been kind enough to come and work for us for the last sort of 6 months. He went travelling and came back, and we sort of had a position, and he needed to sort of do something, I suppose, to fund his next adventure. So he's come into the business, and his learning has been quite accelerated, and he's headed up the guest communications for us, which in itself is quite a demanding task, and he's done incredibly well, and I think the fact that we've achieved superhost status is testament to all of us, and no less for Ellis. Really, he's worked really hard on that to sort of keep us on track to sort of achieve that. But ultimately, we know it's not his passion, and we want to release him back from the business to sort of follow his passion. He's got an incredible eye for detail in respect of sort of fashion, menswear. He knows a huge amount about designer labels. He'll be wearing items of clothing that that are cool in 6 months' time. He really is ahead of the curve, and you can see it's because he's passionate about it, isn't it? So
And trainers.
yeah, trainers without a doubt is the
Yeah.
it's
He's got
also
more pairs of trainers than I've got shoes.
Which is going
Literally,
some.
Yeah.
That is
Double the amount. I'd
going
say.
some.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, he's got this amazing. Wow. He's got this amazing future ahead of him,
Yeah.
where you're essentially going to be his mentors, and you're going to mentor him through the starting of a business. I know it was in both of your visions, and you're going to mentor him in something he's actually passionate about, and that I think is a really important point, because sometimes on the planning game we don't always talk about planning and property, but it's your property development journey, the business you've built in property, that enables you to say to Ellis, you know what, we know it's not for you, but you're passionate about this. And because you're passionate about this,
Let's do it.
we're going to back you.
definitely.
But as we discussed in the session, it's not a free pass.
Yes. Yeah.
It's going to be either, and it's down to you, we suggested a couple of ways, so it's either going to be goal-based drawdowns,
Yeah.
which when I'm dealing with my children, that's how I prefer to do it.
Yeah.
Or it's going to be, as Lloyd said, which is a loan which must be paid back.
Yeah.
Yeah? Both equally worthwhile. A really bright future for him though, I think.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I think, as you
He's
said,
got
it's
to do something he's passionate about.
yeah, definitely. As you said, it's almost like the development finance model, isn't it? That it's done on different sort of stage payments for various different sort of bits and pieces and the goals that he sort of sets. But we're fortunate enough to be in a position to be able to sort of offer that support, and we know he's passionate about it because he's got such in-depth knowledge.
But equally, property has done that for you.
Yes.
Hasn't it?
Yes.
Which is
exactly.
amazing.
Allowed us to do it.
Yeah, yeah. So a bright future all round, I think.
Fantastic. Well, I really look forward to seeing The Matrix 5 with all of you involved. Yeah. I fully expect you to be coming to the Christmas party in black with sunglasses. But yeah, fantastic. Thank you very much for joining me on Planning Game. I'll catch you guys on the next one. This is John from Barley signing off.